So, if this image isn't anything to go by, massive spoilers for Game of Thrones Season 6 in this video. Yeah, I'm not gonna try and hide it. If you're getting into the show now, well, you're 6 seasons too late. If you are holding off until the season's over and you're looking up videos on it, why the fuck are you looking up videos on it? Anyway, people are getting kind of pissed that Arya isn't dead from this. You know, being stabbed multiple times by a trained assassin and all that. Okay. Other characters have been stabbed, and that's their reasoning. Oh, other characters were stabbed and they all died really quickly. Why didn't she die? Okay, several things. Let's go down those characters who were stabbed and see exactly, to what degree they were stabbed. Okay, Robert Baratheon is one of the common-sighted ones. Well, he was gored by a boar. That is very nasty and very messy. He was also out in the woods, days from King's Landing. At least in the books he was, and I imagine the show keeps distance about the same. So, Robert went a couple days without old Pycelle to try and help him. In the books, it's described his intestines had actually been ripped out of him. So, yeah. Also, Robert was a drunk, probably had diabetes, high cholesterol, liver cirrhosis. He was not a healthy man. Arya is a fit girl. Now, the next one would be the stable boy Arya killed. The thing about that is, Needle is a bit better than that little knife. And she hit that kid pretty center of mass, right where you do want to hit someone to kill them with that sort of a sword. She probably pierced an artery. You know, when he said pull it out, in the books at least, she pulled it out and he died because that uncorked the wound. The next person to get horribly stabbed. Anything that's stabbing with a broadsword, I'm gonna rule out because that's a little too big. But Eddard, stabbed in the streets of King's Landing. Well, spear thrust to the leg, and it almost killed him. He was feverish, blah, blah. Well, Sean Bean had the flu on set, so that gives his appearance, but what you don't know, if you didn't read the book, and I'm going to be a know-it-all, sorry, is that spear thrust didn't just pierce his leg, it also, well, in the books, he fell off a horse, his horse crushed his leg, and so his leg was broken. In the show, he had a spear thrust into the leg. That's a pretty spear point, somewhat broad, gonna do a lot of damage. There's a lot of stuff in the leg that is just gonna fuck you up if it gets cut. And it's also not to say that the spear might not have broken his leg, or hit the bone and done some damage to the bone. But he never had an infection. He just had a really bad time of it. Next would be Robb's wife being repeatedly stabbed in the gut. Now, here's the thing about pregnant women, and this might not be true. This is just something I remember hearing, is that during pregnancy, there's a lot of blood vessels that kind of just engorge in the belly. Like, there's a lot of blood flow going on there in those blood vessels. And when you stab, you're losing a lot of blood much, much more quickly than you would otherwise. I at least that's what I heard. I could be wrong. Look it up. Don't look it up. God knows. But I just heard somewhere years ago, and I think it was on a crime show, like one of those murder porn shows, that like a stab to the gut of a pregnant woman would be much more lethal to her than if she wasn't pregnant, because of the amount of blood vessels that either can go there, or just because blood flow is more important in that area now. I'm not entirely sure. So, yeah, she bled out fairly quickly. Also, she got shanked a lot more than Arya. And it was a bit higher up, too. Now, I'm trying to think of other people who were stabbed in the gut and didn't die of infection. Well, Jaime had his hand lopped off and didn't die of sepsis. He lost most of his hand, well, most of the, wrist and, wrist, but he didn't die. People get lucky. Some people just get lucky. Now, factors that could account for Arya's survival. One, the waif didn't get a, Arya was struggling and fighting back, so the waif didn't get a good clean stab on a kidney or really anything, and that she just simply missed. Then you have the fact that Arya jumped into the canal, which is really cold water, which I imagine is probably fairly cold water. After all, it is fall, at least in Westeros it's fall. We don't know what effect what the children did affected the rest of the world beyond Westeros. So, for all we know, normal seasons are elsewhere, but Westeros has fucked up seasons. Who knows? But if the rest of the world has fucked up seasons, then that river water is pretty cold. Plus, those canals are actually fed by the ocean, so that's ocean water. So, that's going to be really cold. And there's going to be a lot of salt in it, so that could kill some infection, possibly wash it out. Or, given that it's a city, put a lot more nasty shit in there. But then she got help from Lady Crane. Lady Crane said, I'm pretty good at patching them up. So, even if Lady Crane, I'm not going to pretend Lady Crane, oh, she's better than a maester, she's blah, blah, blah. No, she just patched her up as best she could and hoped for the best. Arya clearly reopened her wounds, but she wasn't dead. And she'll probably get better medical attention before she leaves Braavos, or she'll get medical attention when she arrives home. Or she won't, but the fact of the matter is some people just get lucky. Some people are just better off than others in terms of surviving this shit. Every other character we've seen be stabbed in the gut, there's been reasons beyond, oh, it was a stab in the gut that killed them. Robert was torn to shreds. Pregnant woman, blood vessel stuff. Oh, and Khal Drogo with that little slice on his shoulder. That's another one people cite. That remember the person who was supposed to heal him? Kind of wanted him dead, so she probably made it so it would get infected. I wouldn't take that, he got cut and then he got infected. In the books, it did get infected and she was brought in to heal it and then she fucked up. But he's also a guy living out in the fucking grime, riding horses, and he's not in civilization. A wound like that in civilization would not be as bad as a wound out in the fucking wilds. We've seen, plenty of characters who did die from being shanked. Jon, for instance. But, I'm just going to attribute her surviving, not just to, the show writers are just being lazy, but to there are extenuating circumstances that, she got lucky. And that all the other characters who died by being stabbed in the gut, well, there were other circumstances. It's just a matter of, this and that. There's also the fact that the waif wanted her to suffer, which was exactly against what Jaqen said, so she probably stabbed her in such a way that she would have a long, drawn-out death, not die instantly, and just, So Arya could still die of her wounds, but I don't think she will. I think Arya's at least going to get back to Westeros, and then she'll die. Because I don't think Arya will make it through the entire series, just because there's a lot of contextual stuff in the book that suggests that she will eventually die. But I won't go into that. There are better channels to go to for that stuff. Alt-Shift-X is amazing with his analysis and theories and stuff. That's where I get most of my, I go for my in-depth stuff. But, I'm just a casual fan of Game of Thrones, so I figured I'd, throw this out there and just give my 2 cents on why other characters who got stabbed in the gut died and why she didn't. And, I hope this will, be fun. Cue the inflow of comments telling me I'm a dumb fuck. But, whatever.